The clock on Lisa's phone showed 10:47 p.m. as she pushed the squeaky shopping cart through the nearly empty grocery store. Her baby daughter Maya was finally asleep in her car seat, secured in the cart's child area with a thin blanket tucked around her tiny body. Lisa moved quietly through the aisles, trying not to wake her 6-month-old who had been fussy all day, probably from hunger. 3 weeks had passed since the hotel where Lisa worked as a cleaning lady suddenly closed down. No warning, no severance pay, just a handwritten note taped to the employee entrance saying the business was shutting down immediately. 24 years old with a baby to feed and rent due in 5 days, Lisa felt like she was drowning in slow motion. The grocery store felt different at this hour. The bright fluorescent lights seemed harsher somehow, buzzing loudly in the quiet space. Only a few other shoppers wandered the aisles, mostly night shift workers grabbing quick meals or insomniacs killing time. Lisa preferred shopping this late because there were fewer people around to notice her, carefully counting every item, checking prices twice, and putting things back on shelves when her budget couldn't stretch far enough. She made her way to the baby formula section, her heart already sinking as she looked at the prices. The cheapest can of formula cost $23.99. Lisa pulled out a small Ziploc bag from her purse, the same bag she had been filling with loose change for the past 4 months. Quarters from the laundry room in her apartment building, dimes found between couch cushions, nickels discovered in old jacket pockets, and pennies saved from every purchase. Maya stirred slightly in her sleep, and Lisa gently rocked the cart back and forth while she started counting her coins. She made small piles on the shelf next to the formula cans. 10 quarters made $2.50. She had been doing this math in her head for days, but actually seeing the coins laid out made the reality hit harder. The formula would last about 5 days if she was careful with the measurements, maybe 6 days if she watered it down just a little, though she knew she shouldn't do that. Maya was already smaller than other babies her age, and the pediatrician had warned Lisa about making sure the formula was mixed properly for proper nutrition. Lisa counted again, moving each coin from one pile to another. $19.47. She was almost $4 short, and that was assuming the tax wouldn't push the total even higher. Her stomach cramped with hunger, reminding her that she hadn't eaten anything since yesterday morning. She had given Maya the last jar of baby food for lunch and finished the last of the formula that morning. Looking around to make sure no one was watching, Lisa opened her wallet and checked again for any bills she might have missed. Empty except for her expired hotel employee ID card and a photo of Maya from her 2-month checkup. She checked the card slots hoping for a forgotten $5 bill. Nothing. Her phone buzzed with a text message from her landlord asking about rent. Lisa quickly put the phone face down in her purse without responding. She couldn't deal with that problem right now. First, she needed to figure out how to feed her daughter. A security guard walked past the end of the aisle and Lisa quickly scooped her coins back into the Ziploc bag. She didn't want to look suspicious even though she wasn't doing anything wrong. Being poor sometimes felt like a crime itself. The way people stared and whispered when you took too long counting change or used food stamps. Lisa picked up the cheapest formula can and read the label again, hoping somehow the price had magically changed. Same number stared back at her. She thought about asking someone if they had a smaller size, but she had already checked online before coming to the store. This was the smallest can they sold. Maya made a soft sound in her sleep and Lisa's heart clenched. This beautiful little girl depended on her for everything, and Lisa felt like she was failing. She had dropped out of community college when she got pregnant, thinking she could work and raise a baby. The father had disappeared when she told him about the pregnancy, leaving her completely alone. Her mother lived 3 states away and barely had enough money for her own bills after her husband left. Lisa's pride had kept her from asking for help anyway. She was an adult, a mother. She should be able to provide for her child. The store's music system played a soft instrumental version of some popular song, mixing with the hum of the refrigerated cases and the distant sound of a floor buffer somewhere in the store. Lisa pulled out her phone and opened her banking app, though she already knew what it would show. $12.33 in her checking account, and her card would be declined if she tried to spend more because of overdraft fees she couldn't afford. She thought about the single banana she had planned to buy for herself, but that would have to wait. Maya came first, always. Lisa had lost 15 pounds since Maya was born. not from trying to diet, but from making sure her daughter had everything she needed first. A stock clerk wheeled a cart of products past her aisle, nodding politely. Lisa nodded back and pretended to study the formula labels like she was comparison shopping instead of desperately trying to figure out how to afford the most basic necessity for her child. The, Ziploc bag crinkled as she pulled it out again. Maybe she had miscounted. Maybe there were more coins stuck in the corners. She poured the contents into her palm and started over, making sure to count every penny. 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters. Maya shifted in her car seat and Lisa paused to gently pat her back, whispering softly that everything would be okay, even though she wasn't sure it would be. $19.47. The same amount as before. Lisa closed her eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. She would figure something out. She always did. Maybe she could ask the cashier if they had any damaged cans that might be discounted. Maybe someone had returned formula that couldn't be sold at full price. Maybe there was a coupon somewhere in the store she had missed. Opening her eyes, Lisa put the coins back in the bag and placed the formula can in her cart. She would take it to the register and see what happened. If nothing else, maybe she could ask to put some groceries on layaway until her unemployment check came through next week, though she wasn't even sure this store offered that service. Maya deserved better than a mother who had to count quarters to buy formula, but she was the mother Maya had, and Lisa was determined to do whatever it took to take care of her daughter. Even if that meant swallowing her pride at the checkout counter in front of strangers who might judge her for not having enough money. With one last look at the baby formula aisle, Lisa pushed the cart toward the front of the store, her coins jangling softly in the bag, ready to face whatever came next. Lisa pushed her cart toward the front of the store, the wheels squeaking with each step. Only 2 checkout lanes were open at this late hour, and she chose the one with the shorter line. A middle-aged woman in scrubs was ahead of her, probably a nurse getting off a late shift, buying what looked like a frozen dinner and an energy drink. The cashier was a teenager, maybe 17 or 18, with bright purple hair and multiple ear piercings. Her name tag read Kimberly, and she looked like she would rather be anywhere else than scanning groceries at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night. Lisa didn't blame her. When she was that age, she was probably at home watching movies or texting friends, not working late shifts to pay bills. Maya was still sleeping peacefully in her car seat, one tiny fist curled near her cheek. Lisa adjusted the blanket around her daughter, buying herself a few more seconds before facing what was coming. She had been rehearsing different scenarios in her head during the walk from the baby aisle. Maybe she could ask if they had a payment plan. Maybe she could leave her phone number and come back tomorrow with the rest of the money. The nurse ahead of her paid with a credit card and grabbed her receipt quickly, giving Lisa a tired smile as she passed. Now it was Lisa's turn. She lifted the formula can onto the conveyor belt, along with a small bunch of bananas she had grabbed from the produce section. She figured if she was going to be embarrassed, she might as well get something for herself too. The bananas cost $2.48, which would bring her total to over $26. But maybe the cashier would let her buy just the formula. Find everything okay tonight? Kimberly asked automatically, scanning the formula. The red laser light passed over the barcode with a sharp beep that seemed extra loud in the quiet store. Yes, thank you, Lisa replied, pulling the Ziploc bag from her purse. Her hands were already starting to shake slightly. She had never been the type of person who drew attention to herself. In school, she sat in the middle of the classroom, never the first to raise her hand but never hiding in the back either. She paid her bills on time, kept her apartment clean, and tried to be a good neighbor. This situation felt like stepping into someone else's life. Kimberly scanned the bananas. That'll be $26.47, she announced, looking at Lisa expectantly. Lisa opened the Ziploc bag and began pulling out coins. I'm paying in change, she said quietly, hoping to prepare the cashier. I've already counted it, but I might be a few dollars short. Kimberly's expression shifted slightly, not unkind, but clearly less enthusiastic about the transaction. Behind Lisa, she could hear the sound of another cart approaching, then another. The later it got, the more people seemed to need groceries, apparently. Lisa started making piles of quarters on the small counter space next to the card reader. The coins clinked against each other, each sound seeming to echo through the store. 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters. She tried to work quickly, knowing people were waiting behind her. Actually, let me just get the formula, Lisa said, pushing the bananas aside. I don't need these. Kimberly picked up the bananas and set them in a small basket behind the register, then looked at her screen. Okay, so just the formula. That's $25.87 with tax. Lisa's heart sank. She had forgotten about tax. In her careful calculations at home, she had focused on the sticker price and ignored the additional cost that would be added at register. $25.87. She had $19.47. She was more than $6 short. The coins felt heavier in her hands as she continued counting, making neat stacks on the counter. Behind her, she could hear people shifting impatiently. Someone cleared their throat. Another person was having a quiet phone conversation, and she caught fragments of words about being late. I'm sorry, Lisa said to Kimberly, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. I miscalculated. I'm short on the total. Kimberly looked at the piles of coins, then at Lisa, then at the growing line behind her. How much short are you? Lisa quickly finished counting, though she already knew the answer. $6.40. Do you have a card you could put the rest on? No, Lisa's voice caught. She cleared her throat and tried again. Is there a smaller size formula? Maybe something less expensive? Kimberly glanced around, looking uncertain. This was probably not something they covered in cashier training. I can call my manager, but this is the only size we carry for that brand. There might be a different brand that's cheaper. Lisa knew from her research that this was already the cheapest formula the store sold. The more expensive brands were for babies with special dietary needs or organic ingredients that she couldn't afford anyway. Would it be possible to put this on layaway or hold it until tomorrow? Lisa asked, knowing it was probably a long shot. I could come back with the rest of the money. Behind her, someone sighed loudly. Lisa glanced over her shoulder and saw that the line had grown to 4 people. A man in a business suit was checking his watch and looking annoyed. A woman with 2 young children was trying to keep them quiet while they waited. An older gentleman in a nice coat was standing patiently, but Lisa could feel all their eyes on her. Maya chose that moment to wake up. She started with small fussing sounds, then quickly escalated to full crying. The sound cut through the quiet store like a siren, making Lisa's embarrassment complete. She tried to comfort her daughter while still dealing with the payment situation, rocking the car seat gently. I'm really sorry, Lisa said to Kimberly, raising her voice slightly over Maya's crying. I know there are people waiting. Kimberly looked overwhelmed. She was probably making minimum wage and hadn't signed up to handle complex customer situations. Let me call my supervisor, she said, reaching for the phone mounted next to her register. Price check on register 4, Kimberly's voice echoed through the store's PA system. Manager to register 4, please. Lisa wanted to disappear. Now everyone in the store knew there was a problem at her register. She bounced Maya's car seat more vigorously, trying to calm her crying, but the baby was hungry and tired and not interested in being soothed. The business suit man behind her made an exasperated noise and moved to the other open register, his cartwheel squeaking as he pushed it away quickly. Lisa didn't blame him. The woman with children looked sympathetic but also eager to get her own shopping done and get home. Only the older gentleman remained in line behind her, and when Lisa glanced back apologetically, she was surprised to see that he wasn't checking his phone or looking impatient. Instead, he seemed to be watching the situation with a thoughtful expression, his kind eyes moving between Lisa and crying Maya. Lisa turned back to face Kimberly, who was still waiting for the manager to respond to her call. The coins sat in neat stacks on the counter like evidence of her failure to provide for her child. Maya's cries echoed off the store's high ceilings, and Lisa felt tears threatening to spill over. This was not how she had imagined her life would be at 24. She was supposed to be finishing college, maybe starting a career, not counting quarters at midnight trying to buy formula for her baby. But Maya was here, and she was beautiful and perfect, and she deserved so much better than this moment of public humiliation in a grocery store checkout line. The older gentleman behind Lisa had been having a long day. Robert Chen had just finished a board meeting that ran 3 hours longer than scheduled, discussing quarterly reports and budget cuts that would affect hundreds of employees. At 52, he had built his technology company from a small startup in his garage to a business with offices in 12 cities. Tonight, he just wanted to grab some coffee for his early morning flight and get home to his family. But as he stood in line watching this young mother count coins while her baby cried, something inside him shifted. He had seen this scene play out differently in his own life years ago, when he was the one counting change and hoping he had enough for groceries. That was back when his company was just an idea and he was working 3 part-time jobs to pay rent. Robert observed Lisa's quiet dignity as she tried to comfort her daughter while dealing with her embarrassing situation. She wasn't making a scene or demanding special treatment. She was simply a mother trying to feed her child, and she was coming up short through no fault of her own. He recognized the look in her eyes, the same desperate determination he had seen in his own mirror during those early struggling years. Maya's crying grew louder, and Lisa was starting to look overwhelmed. She kept apologizing to the teenage cashier, to the people who had been behind her but moved to other lines, to everyone within hearing distance. Robert could see her hands shaking as she tried to reorganize the coins into smaller stacks, as if somehow that would make them add up to more money. "I'm really sorry about this," Lisa said to Robert, turning around with tears threatening to spill from her eyes. "I know you're probably trying to get home." Robert smiled gently. "Don't worry about me. I'm in no hurry." The store manager finally appeared, a tired-looking man in his 40s who clearly wanted to resolve this situation quickly so everyone could get on with their night. He looked at the coins scattered across the counter, at the crying baby, and at Lisa's embarrassed face. "What's the problem here?" he asked Kimberly. "She's short on her formula purchase," Kimberly explained. "About $6. The manager glanced at his watch. "Do you have another payment method? A card or anything?" Lisa shook her head. "No, I'm sorry. I thought I had enough cash." Robert watched this exchange and made a decision. He had been in Lisa's shoes once, and he remembered exactly how it felt. The shame, the worry about your child, the feeling that everyone was judging you. But he also remembered the stranger who had helped him during his lowest moment, an elderly woman who had paid for his groceries when his card was declined, telling him to pay it forward someday when you can. He stepped closer to the register, careful not to crowd Lisa or make her feel more uncomfortable. "Excuse me," he said quietly to Kimberly. "Could you add her purchase to my order?" Lisa turned around completely now, her eyes wide. "Oh no, sir, I couldn't ask you to do that." "You're not asking," Robert said gently. "I'm offering." The manager looked between them, probably relieved that the situation might resolve itself without further complications. "That's very kind of you, sir." Lisa was shaking her head vigorously. "I can't let you pay for this. I don't even know you." Robert set his items on the counter, a bag of coffee, some milk, and a newspaper. "I'm Robert," he said simply, "and I have 2 daughters myself. I know how important it is to make sure your baby has what she needs." Maya was still crying, and Lisa was trying to juggle comforting her with processing what this stranger was offering. "But this is $26, she said. "That's a lot of money for someone you don't know." "It's not a lot of money to me," Robert said honestly, but not in a way that sounded boastful. "And it clearly means everything to you and your daughter right now." Kimberly was watching this interaction with interest, probably not used to seeing such kindness during her late-night shifts. The manager had stepped back, letting the situation play out. "I don't understand why you would do this," Lisa said, her voice barely above a whisper. Robert thought about how to explain it without sounding preachy or making her feel like a charity case. "Because someone did the same thing for me once when I needed it most. And because that little girl shouldn't have to wait for formula because of a few dollars." Lisa looked down at Maya, who had calmed slightly but was still fussing. She looked back at Robert, studying his face as if trying to determine whether this was some kind of trick or if he had ulterior motives. "This is real?" she asked. "You're really willing to pay for this?" "Completely real," Robert confirmed. "No strings attached, no payback required." Lisa's composure finally cracked and tears started flowing down her cheeks. "I've been unemployed for 3 weeks, she said. "I've been trying so hard to make everything work, but it's just—" "Hey," Robert said softly. "You don't need to explain anything to me. You're doing your best, and that's all anyone can do." Kimberly had been waiting patiently through this exchange, and now she looked to Robert for confirmation. "Should I ring everything together?" Robert nodded. "Yes, please. And add whatever else she needs." What do you mean?" Lisa asked. Robert gestured toward the basket where Kimberly had set the bananas. "You were buying those too, right? Put them back on the order. And is there anything else you need while we're here?" Lisa stared at him in disbelief. "You're serious? Dead serious? When's the last time you had a proper meal?" Lisa's cheeks flushed. I don't. That's not your problem. It's not a problem at all, Robert said. Kimberly, could you add some of those sandwiches from the deli section? And maybe some fruit and milk? Sir, I really can't let you buy all that, Lisa protested. Robert gently touched her shoulder. You can and you will, because right now your job is to take care of that beautiful baby, and my job is to help a fellow parent when I can. Maya had quieted down completely now, as if sensing that the tension in the situation was easing. Lisa looked down at her daughter, then back at Robert. Why are you doing this? She asked one more time. Robert smiled. Because 25 years ago I was standing in a grocery store checkout line, counting change for ramen noodles and wondering how I was going to make rent. An old woman behind me saw me put food back because I couldn't afford it, and she paid for everything I needed. She told me that kindness travels in circles and someday I'd get the chance to help someone else. Did you ever see her again? Never. But I never forgot what she did or how she made me feel. She showed me that there are good people in the world who care about strangers. Lisa wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me, Robert said. Just take care of yourself and that little girl. And maybe someday when you're back on your feet, you'll get the chance to help someone else who needs it. Kimberly had been quietly adding items to the order during their conversation. Your total is $63.47, she announced to Robert. He handed over his credit card without hesitation, and Lisa watched in amazement as this stranger paid for not just her baby's formula, but groceries that would last her several days. As Kimberly bagged the groceries, Lisa stood in stunned silence watching Robert swipe his card like it was the most natural thing in the world. The receipt printed out with a soft whirring sound, and Robert tucked it into his pocket without even looking at the total. Lisa tried to process what had just happened. A complete stranger had just spent over $60 on groceries for her and Maya without expecting anything in return. Would you like help carrying these to your car? Robert asked, picking up two of the heaviest bags before Lisa could protest. You've already done so much, Lisa said, lifting Maya's car seat with one hand and reaching for a bag with the other. I can manage from here. I'm sure you can, Robert replied with a gentle smile. But I'm walking that way anyway, and these bags look heavy. The automatic doors slid open with a soft whoosh, and they stepped out into the cool night air. The parking lot was mostly empty except for a few cars scattered near the store entrance. Lisa's 15-year-old Honda Civic sat under one of the flickering parking lot lights, and she suddenly felt embarrassed about its condition. The paint was faded. There was a dent in the passenger side door from a minor accident 2 years ago, and the for sale sign in the back window looked desperate rather than hopeful. Robert noticed the sign but didn't comment on it immediately. Instead, he asked, How old is Maya? 6 months next week, Lisa answered, adjusting the car seat handle. Maya was awake now but content, looking around with wide, curious eyes at the parking lot lights. That's a beautiful age, Robert said. Everything is new to them. My daughters are grown now. But I remember when they were babies. Every day was an adventure. Lisa unlocked her car and opened the back door to secure Maya's car seat. How old are your daughters? 23 and 26, Robert replied, setting the grocery bags in Lisa's trunk. Both finished college now and starting their own careers. Time goes by so fast. Lisa paused in buckling Maya's car seat. 23? That's almost my age. She felt even younger suddenly, realizing this man's daughter was essentially her peer, probably living a completely different life with opportunities Lisa couldn't even imagine. You're doing something much harder than they ever had to do, Robert said, reading her thoughts. Raising a baby on your own takes incredible strength. Some days I don't feel very strong, Lisa admitted, closing Maya's door and walking around to load the remaining groceries. Some days I feel like I'm barely keeping my head above water. Robert leaned against her car, crossing his arms in a relaxed pose. Can I tell you something? When my oldest daughter was Maya's age, I was working 3 jobs and living in a studio apartment with my wife. We had maybe $50 in our bank account, and I remember standing in my kitchen at 2 in the morning, warming up a bottle and wondering if I was cut out to be a father. Lisa looked at him in surprise. Really, but you seem so put together, Robert chuckled. I've had a lot of practice. But back then I felt exactly like you probably feel right now. Like every decision was life or death, like one wrong move would send everything crashing down. What changed? Lisa asked, genuinely curious. Time, hard work. A lot of help from people like that woman I told you about in the store. And realizing that feeling overwhelmed doesn't mean you're doing a bad job. It just means you care deeply about getting it right. Lisa closed her trunk and stood facing Robert. In the parking lot light, she could see kindness in his eyes, but also something else. Understanding that came from experience, not just sympathy. The for sale sign, Robert said gently, nodding toward her back window. Is that because of the job situation? Lisa's cheeks burned with embarrassment. I need to make rent next week and unemployment isn't enough. I thought maybe if I could sell the car, I could take the bus to job interviews and have enough money to get by for another month or two. But then, how would you get Maya to doctor appointments? Or grocery shopping? I haven't figured that part out yet, Lisa admitted. I've been applying for jobs online, but most places want experience I don't have or hours I can't work because of childcare. Robert was quiet for a moment, and Lisa worried she had said too much. Here was this generous stranger who had already helped her more than anyone had in months, and she was dumping all her problems on him. I'm sorry, she said quickly. You don't need to hear all this. You've already done more than enough. Don't apologize, Robert said firmly. Talking about it doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. Maya made a soft cooing sound from inside the car, and both adults smiled at the sweet noise. She's lucky to have you, Robert said. I can see how much you love her. How hard you're working to take care of her. That matters more than you know. Thank you, Lisa said and meant it. Not just for the groceries, but for treating me like a person instead of a problem to be solved. Robert understood exactly what she meant. He had been on the receiving end of charity that made him feel small and ashamed. But he had also experienced kindness that preserved his dignity while meeting his need. Can I ask you something? Lisa said suddenly. Of course. Why didn't you just hand me some cash and walk away? Why take the time to talk to me, to walk me to my car? Robert considered her question carefully. Because 25 years ago, that woman who helped me didn't just pay for my groceries and disappear. She stood there and talked to me for 10 minutes about her own struggles when she was young. She made me feel like I wasn't alone in the world, like other people had been where I was and made it through to the other side. And that made a difference? All the difference. The groceries fed me for a week, but that conversation gave me hope that lasted much longer. Lisa felt tears threatening again, but they were different tears now. Not tears of embarrassment or desperation, but tears of gratitude and something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. I wish I could pay you back, she said. Robert shook his head. You can't pay me back and I don't want you to try, but I have to do something. You do, Robert agreed. Someday, when you're back on your feet and life is easier, you'll see someone else who needs help. Maybe it won't be groceries. Maybe it'll be a kind word, or helping someone with a flat tire, or just listening when someone needs to talk. When that moment comes, you'll know what to do. Lisa nodded, understanding. Pay it forward. Exactly. Robert pulled out his wallet and took out a business card, then thought better of it and put it back. Instead, he found a receipt in his pocket and wrote on the back of it. This is just my first name and phone number, he said, handing her the paper. Not because I expect you to call, but because I want you to know that someone in this world is rooting for you and Maya. Lisa looked at the paper. Robert was written in neat handwriting, followed by 10 digits. Thank you, Robert, she said. For everything. Take care of yourself, Lisa, he replied. And take care of that beautiful little girl. 6 months later, Lisa stood in the break room of the medical clinic where she worked as a receptionist, heating up leftover pasta for lunch. Maya was at the daycare center next door, probably taking her afternoon nap or playing with the colorful blocks she loved so much. Life looked completely different now than it had that night in the grocery store. The job at Dr. Peterson's family clinic wasn't glamorous, but it paid enough for Lisa to afford a small 2-bedroom apartment in a safe neighborhood. Maya had her own nursery with a crib that Lisa had bought brand new, not secondhand. The refrigerator was stocked with formula, baby food, and fresh groceries. Lisa even managed to save a little money each month in an envelope marked emergency fund, something she never thought would be possible again. But the biggest change wasn't financial. It was the way Lisa saw the world now. Robert's kindness that night had shifted something deep inside her. She found herself noticing people around her in ways she never had before. The elderly man who struggled to reach items on high shelves at the grocery store. The young mother in the clinic waiting room who looked overwhelmed. The teenager who counted change carefully when buying lunch at the sandwich shop. That afternoon, Lisa was walking back to work from picking up Maya's prescription when she saw him. A young father, maybe 25 years old, standing in the baby aisle of the same grocery store where her life had changed. He was holding a can of formula in one hand and his phone in the other, calculator app open, clearly trying to figure out if he had enough money. Lisa recognized the look on his face immediately. The same desperate calculation she had done so many nights, trying to make impossible math work out in her favor. The man's baby was crying in the cart and he kept glancing around nervously, probably hoping no one would notice his struggle. Lisa didn't hesitate. She walked over and stood nearby, pretending to look at baby food while observing the situation. The man put the formula in his cart, then took it out again, checking the price one more time. His shoulders sagged with defeat and he started pushing his cart toward a cheaper section of the store. "Excuse me," Lisa said gently, the same way Robert had approached her months ago. The man looked up, startled. "Yes? I couldn't help but notice you're shopping for your baby. How old is she?" 3 months, he said, his voice tired. "Her name is Zoe," Lisa smiled. "That's a beautiful name. I have a daughter too, Maya. She's almost a year old now." The man nodded politely, but Lisa could see he was distracted, still worried about the formula situation. "This might sound strange," Lisa continued, "but I'd like to buy that formula for you." The man's eyes widened. "What? No, I couldn't ask you to do that." "You're not asking." "I'm offering," Lisa said, using Robert's exact words. "Someone did the same thing for me once when I really needed it." The man stared at her, clearly trying to process this unexpected offer. "But you don't even know me." "I don't need to know you to see that you're a good father trying to take care of his baby. That's enough for me." Lisa could see the internal struggle playing out on his face. Pride fighting against necessity, embarrassment battling with relief. She remembered exactly how that felt. "My name is Lisa," she said, extending her hand, "and I know how hard it can be sometimes." "I'm David," he replied, shaking her hand with a grip that trembled slightly. "I got laid off 2 weeks ago, and my wife is recovering from surgery. We're having a rough time right now." "I understand completely," Lisa said. "Let's get that formula and maybe some other things Zoe might need." 20 minutes later, Lisa had paid for not just the formula but also diapers, baby wipes, and some groceries for David's family. As they walked to the parking lot, David kept thanking her, his voice thick with emotion. "I don't understand why you would do this for a stranger," David said, loading the groceries into his car. Lisa thought about how to explain it. "6 months ago, I was in your exact situation. A stranger helped me when I couldn't afford formula for Maya. He told me that kindness travels in circles, and someday I'd get the chance to help someone else. And now you're helping me." "That's how it works," Lisa said with a smile. "Someday, when you're back on your feet, you'll see someone else who needs help. You'll know what to do." David nodded, understanding. "Pay it forward." Exactly. That night after Maya was asleep, Lisa sat at her small kitchen table with her laptop. She had been thinking about starting a blog to document her journey from that desperate night to where she was now. Not for fame or attention, but because she wanted other struggling parents to know they weren't alone. She started typing, telling her story honestly, the fear, the embarrassment, the unexpected kindness from a stranger named Robert, and how it had changed her entire perspective on life. She wrote about paying it forward that afternoon, about how good it felt to help David the same way she had been helped. Lisa published the blog post late that night, expecting maybe a few family members and friends to read it. She never imagined what would happen next. Within a week, her story had been shared thousands of times on social media. Messages poured in from parents around the world sharing their own struggles and stories of unexpected kindness. Local news stations wanted to interview her. A parenting magazine asked if they could republish her blog post. But the most amazing thing was the chain reaction of kindness that followed. People started sharing their own pay-it-forward moments in grocery stores, coffee shops, gas stations, and restaurants. Parents helped other parents. Strangers covered each other's bills. Small acts of kindness multiplied across communities. Lisa never knew that Robert had seen her viral blog post. She never learned that he had quietly established a fund through the local food bank, specifically for parents facing emergency situations. No applications required. No credit checks, just help when it was needed most. The fund had already assisted over 100 families in the months since their grocery store encounter. Robert had also never told his own daughters about helping Lisa that night. But when they saw the blog post shared in their social media feeds, they recognized their father's car in the background of one of the photos Lisa had included. They confronted him about it, and Robert finally admitted to his random act of kindness. His daughters were so moved by the story and proud of their father that they volunteered to help manage the food bank fund, turning it into a family mission. They organized donation drives at their workplaces and convinced their friends to get involved. Meanwhile, David, the young father Lisa had helped, found a new job 3 weeks after their encounter. His wife recovered from her surgery, and baby Zoe was thriving. When David got his first paycheck, he didn't forget Lisa's words about paying it forward. He was at a coffee shop when he noticed a college student counting change to buy a simple bagel for breakfast. David quietly asked the cashier to add the student's order to his bill. When the surprised student asked why, David simply said, "Someone helped my family when we needed it. Now I'm helping you." The student later wrote about the experience in the campus newspaper, inspiring other students to look for ways to help each other. The ripple effect continued growing, touching lives in ways none of them could have predicted. Lisa's blog had become more than just a personal story. It had become a movement of people choosing kindness over indifference, connection over isolation, hope over despair, all because one man decided to help a struggling mother in a grocery store checkout line, and she decided to pass that kindness along.